Christian parenting.
Welcome to Pardon the Mess. I'm your host, Courtney DeFeo, and on this podcast, we talk about raising kids as Christian parents. It's so very important for me to honor God with my family and the 2 kids that He's given me. But honestly, it's not always neat or easy or tidy, but it's always worth it. So join us every week to laugh and learn together on this beautiful and messy journey of parenting. Very exciting game changer product for you today. So if you are like a size 0 and your thighs have never touched, like this is not for you. But anybody else that's got a little bit of curves in their life, you need some undershorts. I'm telling you, these undershorts have changed my life. I love wearing dresses, but I'm not loving my thighs. I can't believe I'm telling you all this. Rubbing together. But I was talking about them at a mom party with like some sophomore moms. I think I pretty much did flash them and said, somehow it came up. Like, how do I tell people this? It's so embarrassing. But I was like, these are game changers. You know why? Because they're not Spanx and they're not cutting my circulation off and I'm not throwing them away in the bathroom because I can't breathe. But these are like soft and easy. And I just feel like I'm going to change your life with these. So you're welcome. Undershorts coming. You can get them in a variety of colors. This show is not sponsored by the undershorts, people. This is just friend to friend, mom to mom. Go get you some, and you're going to enjoy all of your dresses all year long. Okay, that's random. Next, why this episode? So if you've been around me at all for long, you know that service and generosity is a massive part of our family culture and something that I early on Ron and I said, this is going to be one of our top 5 values. And how do we intentionally make that a reality? So in today's episode, we do talk about Lighthouse, which is one of the places I've served with for years, which is a ministry that does retreats on weekends and week-long retreats here domestically in the U.S. for kids and families with cancer. It is life-changing, but we are talking more than Lighthouse. We are talking why serve? Why is that an important thing for family? And most importantly, you've got a couple, Jan and Chris Woodruff, who I love and adore, and they are about to be empty nesters, but they can look back over the 20-something years they've been raising kids and say, what were the benefits? Was that worth it to spend time serving together as a family? And as you'll hear, we would say yes, and I would say yes. And even Ella, I think I mentioned this, but she wrote her college essay on her time serving in the summers with Lighthouse. And so again, I want you to lean in. I want you to not get overwhelmed to say, I can't add one more thing, but just think about where even just around your house are little touch points throughout the year that you can get in the practice of making others more important than yourselves and see your kids grow and gain confidence in who God made them to be and really see faith at work. I really do think it's one of the ways that we see the hands and feet of Jesus. And it's one of the ways we don't lecture them, but we say, come experience this. This is a critical part of the Christian life. Come, kids, experience how fun it is to walk in service in a way that people experience God. In my first book, I do talk about this. It was one of the things that fired me up to write that first book. It's called In This House We Will Giggle. And I go through each month of the year focusing on a virtue or a value that's important and biblical. And then how do you practically do that? Because I do believe that our kids learn critical things. It's caught, not taught. So it's not lectured to them, but it's like, come over here. Let me show you what it looks like to be patient. Come over here. Let's have fun together practicing gratitude. And so there's lots of super practical ideas in there. But today we've got Chris Woodruff, who is the executive director and CEO of Lighthouse Family Retreat, and his beautiful, awesome wife, Jan, that is just pours out wisdom to us. And so I'm delighted for y'all to get to know them. And just at the end, I want to give you a challenge, like just go on a date night or get some time with girlfriends at a coffee and just say, if you haven't done this already, what are our top values as a family? And it's not too late. If you have teens, you can still do this, but the better way would be to start earlier and say, what are our top 5 values as a family? And then how are we going to spend time and money making sure that is a priority in our years? And that takes some planning. So go for it, challenge each other. And then last 2 things, we've got 2 resources for the Advent season. Raise your hand if you're like a creative person that just loves to create and invent and come up with all these fun ideas for your family. Or raise your hand if you're like, no, thank you. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I want someone to give me a script, someone else think of it, and I'll go do it. So these are 2 things for you. That second part of people that are like, I think Advent is important. season. I think Jesus is the reason for the season. I'm just exhausted and I don't want to reinvent anything. So the first one is, if you'll go to in the show notes, Light 'em Up Acts is a thing that I came up with years ago. Just super simple, random acts of kindness that you can do right around your house. Some of the things we're talking about, it's free. It's 100 ideas. And you can even print them out as a family and say, hey, this Christmas, what is one thing we could do in our community to spread Jesus, or just to thank people and just show real gratitude, or just spread kindness. I used to do one like every day when I had some energy. Every day of December, I did one, but that may be a little obnoxious. And then the second resource, I'm so thrilled. Christian Parenting, they're the best at this. I think they always take all the different things, lump them together in a way that you can find them. So right now, if you go over to cpgive.org, there are Advent resources. So some of you may want your kids to draw, color, and do word searches. There's something for that. Maybe you want to teach them specifically about the incredible birth of your Savior, or you want to slow down in Christmas and spend time with the Lord through devotionals written by parents like you, or maybe you want fun and engaging ways to actively explore the meaning of Christmas together. All of that is over there. And so you can go just choose and pick what would work for your family. And don't put pressure on yourself. I know I'm putting that like on you right now, but enjoy it. And I do think it's a mindset flip. If we go into the Christmas season thinking about what we can get, and we flip it to what we can give and how we can focus on Jesus, it becomes a more meaningful and memorable, lasting experience for your kids. And your heart will settle in a way that's like, I got distracted with all the shopping lists, but this is what really matters at the end of the day. So, long intro, enjoy, go get your undershorts, enjoy Chris and Jan, and y'all have a great day. Here we go. All right, Chris and Jan Woodruff, my friends, welcome to Part of the Mess. This has been a long time coming. How are you today?
Oh my gosh, we are so good.
We are good. It's always a good day when we can talk to Courtney.
Love it. And I'm making them share a microphone so they're like cuddled up like the lovebirds that you are. How long have y'all been married?
24 years this year.
2 weeks. Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Jan, you deserve a trophy for that. It's amazing.
Well, we got married in 2000. So the reality is we know the years.
Like it makes it easy to count. It makes it easy to count. Being married in 2000, you always know what year anniversary it is.
Well, I'm actually impressed by that because I'm 2003 and I'm lost all the time. I'm like, I don't know. It's been some years, couple decades, something like that.
Yeah, you got to do math. We don't have to do math. We're fortunate.
Right. Tell the good folks about your kids. How old are they? Where are they? What stage of life? And all that fun stuff.
Oh my gosh, we're in so many different places. We love this season. It's a new one, but it's different for us. So we have our oldest is in school at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs.
Uh-huh.
And he's in his fourth year. He's considering, or not considering, he'll probably be there for at least a 4.5 to 5.
Okay.
He made some changes along the way and did some different stuff, so he gets to get an extra year of college. I'm jealous because I loved college, so I'm like, go for it. Take an extra year.
Yeah.
So he's in school. He's 21. Our second-born son is in Montana. So he lives in Montana, and he works with a ministry out there where he's a fly fishing guide and does like some work crew stuff and just serves men and women in ministry and Christian leaders, which is really cool. We'll probably talk a little bit about that because his path is because of some different things that we've done that we never thought would actually have the impact it's had.
And what a beautiful place to visit. You're like, son, are you struggling? We'll be right there. Montana.
Yeah, it's like, you've got a terrible view today, don't you? Yeah, you sure do. Terrible sunset today. And then our daughter is a senior in high school. She's 17, and she's in the midst of making all kinds of decisions about what's next in her world. And so 3 kids, and then we have a pseudo. We've got a foster son that's still connected to our family. So we just always include him as a part of our family. He's 9, and he was with us for 2.5 years, and that was about 5 years ago, but we still see him every probably 4 to 6 weeks, and he spends a weekend or a week with us here and there, and we've just always included him. And then there's Crosby, our dog. So that's our family.
Way to go, Crosby. And I don't know if this will be offensive to your daughter, but when I saw her at Lighthouse, like running around, I'm like, she's a little mini me for me. I'm like, that was the energy I was bringing to environments, like not afraid, jump on the stage, use the mic. And so I have a feeling she's going to be a public speaker one day, perhaps, but she's so sweet.
I would not disagree with that. And I think she would take that as a huge compliment. She knows you and loves you and your family. And I think that if she heard you say that, she'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm blushing.
She's so cute. She's so cute. So, okay. So I was thinking before we got on of why service and generosity, and I'm going to use them interchangeably because I think it's all just a beautiful thing of generosity. But I was thinking about like, why is this a thing I love so much? Like if I could have a dream job, you would give me millions of dollars, Chris, and I would just be like Publishers Clearinghouse, and I would be jumping, like going to people's doorsteps and knowing the exact thing they needed and balloons and just blessing people all day long. It would be my favorite job. But I look back and I'm going to ask you the same question, like, where did it come from for you? I did have parents that modeled this, that it was a value that we were generous. They were always tithing, but I saw my mom live it out in really creative ways. So if the lawn guy, this happened, his leaf blower got stolen out of his truck, and she started a campaign in the neighborhood to buy him another leaf blower. So that's my mom. If someone never had a bridal shower and their family couldn't afford it, we were hosting showers all the time. And that was like her way. So it was sometimes financial, but a lot of times it was time and talents and just love. And all the high school people, everybody actually, when they came to our house, they told her their favorite cereal, and she had it lined up. So we had a whole pantry full of cereal, like Trix are for kids, Chex Mix, like, and so just little things like that. And then fast forward, I worked at Chick-fil-A headquarters, as most of you know, and Chris and I and Jan have a ton of mutual friends there, but they taught me early on about being intentional with your life, like not just what you do, who you are, and okay, does that matter to you? So I watched all these parents, and I was not even engaged at the time when I worked there, and thought, when I'm a wife, I want to do that. This is what's important to me.
Yeah.
When I'm a parent, like this is what the Bible says about parenting. And so I had such beautiful models. And then I actually had kids and thought, this is actually important to me and Ron. And so we made a plan and spent time and money. So look at your checkbook, I would tell people, look at your calendar, and are those things lining up with what you're passionate about? So you go. How did this become a thing, Jan or Chris? Y'all want to start?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think something that shaped it is that when we actually met on a mission trip.
Oh, cool.
And we were single, and we were on a trip to the Dominican Republic. And that was just something that was a core thing for both of us. And so after we got married, we were always looking for opportunities to go somewhere or do something together. And what we found is there was not a lot of places when you start a family that you can bring young children.
Yeah.
So we oftentimes were looking at organizations that our kids could be a part of it, because for us, we just saw how important it was to be in those cultures. And it shapes your heart, right? Because you come back to an amazing United States that's very, very settled and entitled. But when you go to a place like that, it reshapes you. And we're like, that's what we want our family to be about.
Yeah.
So for us, we wound up being connected to a ministry called Lighthouse Family Retreat. When we were very first married, we were in a small group, and the founder came to our group and asked if we wanted to help support a family that had a child with cancer. And so we said yes. And from that point on, we were connected to that ministry. And so when we started having kids, it was the one place that we could bring kids for and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, we walked away from that mission trip once we finally, because we weren't dating at the time, started dating, got engaged, got married. And we just decided early on, we're like, you know what, we met through this. It became something that shaped our faith. It was both our first mission trip. And we just walked away going, wow, serving, the impact that it had on us, it just really shaped who we were moving forward in our faith. And we both had that same experience, that we decided, hey, serving is going to be a part of who we are as a family. This is before we had kids. We kind of, we're early on in our marriage. We're like gung-ho. We're writing goals for our marriage and our family and all these things. And we just defined, hey, as a part of that, one of the things, that core values for our family is going to be serving. And so as we started having kids, like Jan said, they're getting old enough, and we go to the church and we're like, hey, we want to go take our kids to do some stuff. Can we go here? And like, oh yeah, they got to be 12. Can we go over there? Oh, well, they got to be 10.
Correct. And
like, there's nowhere we can go where our boys were 7 and 5, our daughter was 3. And then we remembered, hey, we've been sponsoring this organization, working with this organization, Lighthouse. Let's go there, right? We're just not going to do it with our church. We're just going to sign up on our own. And so we just signed up on our own, and And that's where we went from doing like a 2-hour service project on a weekend or something to going, all right, we're doing this for a week with we left our daughter at home the first time. We're taking a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old boy who you have no idea what you're going to get, right? And if you have boys, you know that it's like, I don't know what we're going to get this week from a 5 and 7-year-old boy. And we're going to go serve and we're going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
And we just walked away from that week going, oh my gosh, we've got to do something like this every year.
Yeah.
That impactful at that age to hear your boys when we're driving away and we're exhausted and they've had good moments and they've had some not so great moments on that. They weren't awesome all the time, and that's okay. But they're driving away in the back seat and they're going, okay, so when do we get to go back? And we're like, yeah, check the box. Boom, done. We're
so
doing
good.
This every year.
We had the same experience. I feel like when they were little, we started what I called Light 'em Up, but we did random acts of kindness. It was typically around Christmas, and then we would do it. So it was like these little blips of like, hey, the world's actually not about you. Like, it's better to give than receive. Like, just continuing to flip the switch that's against culture. And I started feeling the same way as like I wanted a trip, because when I went to Ukraine with Chick-fil-A, it was one of the things I'll remember the rest of my life, is like being immersed in a week that's all about somebody else. And so I had the same thing. Went to my church. They said, oh, they can be 14. And so I think the girls, I should have looked this up. I think they were in first and third the first time we went on a Lighthouse trip. And we will give you all the things, but if you don't know, it's a week dedicated to families with childhood cancer. And you just simply go serve and love and be there. But Chris, you kind of had an interesting turn. When did you come on staff? When did it become like, I'm volunteering and then I'm a part of this team now?
Yeah. So we were serving a couple years as a family. And I was in the corporate world, and ministry for me was just going to be whatever ministry we were involved in as a family at church, through whatever it was that we were doing. And Lighthouse was going to be one of those as a family that we were just going to do on a regular. And then in 2011, the person that was leading it at the time decided they were going to take a job as a pastor and move on into the church world. And they were a friend of ours. And at the same time, I was also in a spot where I'd been with the company for about 7 years. I'm like, I think it's time for me to move on, maybe look for something different. Yeah. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, and God just kind of said, hey, I think they actually might be one and the same. And Jan and I spent some time talking about it, praying about it. I threw my name in the hat, and in 2012 came on as staff. But we were serving for several years before, and so it was something we already were really passionate about. Serving was something that we already knew we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And what was really neat is we saw this shape our kids in a way that it prepared them even for some bigger trips when they were the 12 years old, right? When they were old enough to go on through our church and maybe an international trip or a different type of thing. And we've seen that with a lot of other families that we've served alongside.
Yeah. Jam.
And one thing I was going to add is that it was not easy when you have little kids to serve. I just want to be really clear, because we're going to fast forward in a little bit, and we've got 20 young adults. But what I can tell you is, if you work through, you bring, we all have meltdowns. We all have to get used to new environments. But one thing that I loved about our time serving together is that it wasn't just us, like as parents, shaping our kids' hearts to serve or to even increase their faith. They were learning it from everybody that was around them.
Yeah.
So for us, that was a home run, which is why we kept going back, is that our kids were looking, if they were, in elementary, the middle schoolers were super cool. And then the high schoolers, and then the summer staff, and then they had their flip-flop leaders and the people that were pouring into them that were adults that made life look fun. It's really important I say that, because they shaped it so much. And helped our kids adapt each and every year and mature into being really good servers.
Yeah.
But I really want to be clear that if you start young, which I highly recommend, it will take time, because your kids are still kids. Yeah. And we're still, we still have meltdowns when we're done, as parents.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth it. So that was,
Chris knows I may have a meltdown or 12 when it's too hot. I'm like, I need to go take a nap. My head is hurting. But I do want to say, I completely agree. Starting young was crucial. But also, I saw some kids come into Lighthouse at some point that were starting as teens, and they were having to play catch up, because these little 4-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds are running circles around them, because they have been trained that this is what it looks like to put someone before ourselves. And so I definitely say start young and be realistic. Like you said, not all pretty.
100%. And now this is the deal. I have seen over the years kids come in at 17 and start doing it, and they turn out being one of our best college summer staff that come on. Yeah. But I've also seen, to your point, the 4-year-olds that come in and that grow up in it, and they don't know any different. We've got kids that we know in our network and in our own kids, they don't remember not serving. Right. Mm-hmm. It's just part of who they are and what they know. And and what's really neat about that, when you start them early, it kind of gets in their DNA. They're now making choices as adults where it's like, well, I'm going to serve because I don't know any different. That's what we do. And so I'm going to find out where I'm going to do that on my own, which is what you want for your kids.
For sure.
You want them making those choices when they don't have to go, right?
That's
They're getting to choose to go. And
That's right. Let me tell you a funny Ron story. So those of you that know him will not be surprised, and Chris is already smiling, that he was like, nah, I'm not really into mission trips. Like, I don't really want to go international for any reason other than just like vacationing. So I was really bothered by that. I was like, what is wrong with him? Does he even love the Lord? And he finally, I mean, there was years I was pushing him like, why isn't this a priority for you? And he finally explained to me that he was like, when I get time off of work, he works a super big job most days of the week. He was like, when I get a minute to pause, I just want to be with my family and rest. He was like, it's so awful. He's like, I don't want to go build a house in Haiti. Like, I'm exhausted.
That's so fair, though. A lot of people view it that way.
There's probably many husbands listening or many wives listening. They're like, it's okay. And I finally had to have empathy and go like, I think this is really important for our family. You don't always have to go. And he's like, I'll write all the checks all day long. But he did end up going. He ended up loving it. He ended up soaring at it. He doesn't go every year because of vacation time. But he said, and we've always said, when our family serves together, it's the best version of our family. And you just can't get that any other way to me. So y'all know Ron. Does that surprise you? He was a little cranky.
No, not at all. And not the cranky part, but I know how busy he is.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of dads out there like that. And that's when they're not busy, they want to spend it with their family.
Yeah.
But to your point, what he said was our family is our best version.
Yeah.
When we're serving together. You don't have to use every vacation to go serve, right?
Right.
But when you do take that time to do it, it's the best version of your family, and you're creating these common experiences together that you have to build on, to have conversations about, these reflective memories to go back to when you've done this together and served together. And that's not just, we're talking specifically about Lighthouse, but that happens anywhere you choose to serve. Lighthouse isn't the only place to go do that. Lighthouse is a great place to go do that. It's not the only place to go do that. It's anywhere you go to serve and have that collected, shared memory of doing that. That's what's going to be the deal breaker.
I love that. If y'all could see this, like the poor Mike, and they're like both grabbing it. Because I'm like, Jan, get it. You win.
Well, we are so passionate about it, though, honestly. But to your point with Ron, like we have seen many families we've invited where it is personality driven. Okay. I believe that every personality can serve well. They just need to find their space.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? Not everybody wants to be up front, and that's okay. Because in most places of service, you don't need to be there, right? Yeah. So this was a big learning for us when we first went. The first year we went to serve, the boys were 5 and 7. Our oldest tends to be all in. Our kids have unloaded trucks and warehouses and all the things. One of our sons, he just wanted to stand at the drink table and pour drinks.
Yeah.
And so as a parent, oftentimes, I'm just cautioning all of us, we want our kids to just hit it all out of the park.
Right.
Right. And so I share with families often when you're serving, and, specifically at Lighthouse, that's our example, but anywhere, find where your child's strength is. Mm-hmm. If they're happy pouring drinks while your other kid might be emptying a truck, what you would think would be the bigger job, or someone's going to take the garbage out because they want to be behind the scenes. Those are equally of importance.
Yeah.
And I just felt like for all of our children, we got to see how they're wired.
Yes.
And so it was better for me. I flipped the switch, and we flipped the switch going, we don't have to force them, but let us see where they feel best serving. And then let's celebrate that. And let's continue to put them in those places where they feel like they're shining.
Well, and you're so right. I've forced my kids to serve at church, and they still do. But there's times when I'm like, well, why did I do that to her? Like that. And I think there's like benefit in getting out of your comfort zone, but watching them as they've grown to go like, it's just really interesting. Like Ella is a one-on-one. She actually wrote her college essay. I need to send it to you guys. She wrote it about her experience at Lighthouse. And one of the things she talked about was it was both. She was like, what did she say the other day? I had her speak with me and she was like, be you, but don't be you. So she was like, be me and be one-on-one and love those kids that are shy and sit there and braid their hair. But then one of them who was super outgoing said, can you get up here and sing a Taylor Swift song for me? And she thought I might die, but she did it. And she did it for that little girl. Right. So I think it's true both. But one of the things I want to say about Ella is she started volunteering in our buddy ministry at church. And I would have never pinned her as someone passionate about this, but I think because of Lighthouse, she started leaning towards the kids with Down syndrome. And she's a buddy now, and his name is Truett. And she goes, whenever they call her, she is there. And it's not every week. It's the grandmother's grandson. And she said, Mom, I think I want to do that when I go to Auburn. Like, I think I want to get around a Down syndrome community. And so helping them try things and see where they soar. And then Larson's like Pied Piper. If you've ever seen her at Lighthouse, she's got like 50 kids on her. She's like entertaining the troops. And she does that at our church. She serves in the 2-year-old. Who wants to serve in a 2-year-old room? No one, but she's like juggling the kids and all that kind of stuff. So I completely agree with you. Well, what else have you seen in your kids? Benefits of them just serving in general. What do you see the benefit being?
I think one of the neat things, we've seen this in all of our kids and specifically in Rena, it's just this desire, it's created community and culture within our own family to want to do and be a part of just the different things. And Rena and I, we have had a really unique experience over the last couple of years. We go to church together. And I serve on a parking team. I'm in charge of a lot of things during the week. I like not being in charge on Sunday, and I just want to be a guy that waves little flags and stuff.
Yes, good.
Right, cars. I don't want to be the boss. I don't want to lead anything. I just want to be a soldier. And so I signed up for parking, and randomly at one point, I think we needed help one Sunday. I said, "Hey, Rain, you want to come? Why don't you come park with me?" We went and parked, and I said, "Hey, we should probably do this more. Why don't you come park with me all the time?" And it was an easy for her. It was a no-brainer. She's like, absolutely, because we love serving together, right? It's something we had been doing. So it was something that was already comfortable and a great relationship. And it was just something that came together really easy. And it was something we knew we loved doing, just being together and spend that time. So we created this really neat experience outside of what we were normally doing. But we've got this great relationship through even just serving on a Sunday morning, parking cars in the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
And it's just really neat seeing how that it just becomes easier and easier to say yes. And it was like a no-brainer for her to go, yeah, that's what we do. We serve together. I'd love to serve with you. That would be so much fun. I could
completely see her like TikTok dance, like making a dance with the flags, and people are driving in that's like, this place is awesome.
And the funny thing is I know you haven't driven into church when we're parking, but that's what she's been doing. Like, she will sit out there and she'll just, because they pipe music out on the end of the parking lot. She's sitting there doing all kinds of dances, and then she gets the rest of the 40 and 50-year-old men that are parking dancing with her, and it's the funnest thing.
That's so awesome. Jan, what benefits have you seen in your kiddos from serving?
Oh goodness, I feel like they are much more empathetic. I think one of the big things that I had said one year, we had the kids, I would think the boys were maybe right heading into middle school. And our boys are 22 months apart. And Rena has similar opportunities as well, but they had a guy that was there in their group who was Asperger's. And so his sibling was the one who had cancer, and he was Asperger's. So we knew coming in that he was going to have some social challenges. Well, he had the best week of his life. And the boys celebrated him and they loved on him. They had like the John Cena music going on. They made the tunnel for when he would run through. And the big thing that I had said to the kids is said, when you go back home, you remember, and I can't remember his name. Let's just call him Mike. There's Mike sitting at lunch tables at your school.
Yep.
Right? Don't be just compassionate the week we're supposed to serve wherever we're serving.
Yes.
Where are you looking around for ways? And so I feel like our kids have been much more sensitive. I mean, our one guy, he came home, he's like, hey, I'm working with special needs in middle school. And he went on their field trips with them. We had no idea.
No clue.
And that was just, to me, a way, because they had already had their eyes open to other things that were going on in other families. So when they saw it in their backyard, I felt like they kind of took some opportunity.
So good. So good.
Black Friday is coming, and for the adults in your life who love the coolest toys, well, there's something for them this year too. Bartesian is the premier craft cocktail maker that automatically makes more than 60 seasonal and classic cocktails, each in under 30 seconds at the push of a button. And right now, Bartesian is having a huge site-wide sale. You can get $100 off any cocktail maker or cocktail maker bundle when you spend $400 or more. So, if the cocktail lover in your life has been good this year, or the right kind of bad, get them Bartesian. At the push of a button, make bar-quality cosmopolitans, martinis, Manhattans, and more. All in just 30 seconds. All for $100 off. Amazing toys aren't just for kids. Get $100 off a cocktail maker when you spend $400 through Cyber Monday. Visit bartesian.com/cocktail. That's BARTESIAN.com/cocktail.
Shop early, save big, all month long during Black Friday build-up at Lowe's. Right now, get select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees starting at just $59.98. Don't wait to save. Shop these deals today, in-store or online, because Lowe's knows deals. Discount taken at time of purchase while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
The other thing, Courtney, I'll share too, and you shared this a little bit when you were even sharing your story of how you kind of brought into it, and then you saw it and experienced it at Chick-fil-A, and things kind of drove you even into the things you were choosing to do with your life. We're seeing that with our kids now in the ages they are, being 21, almost 20, and 17, especially with the two oldest, our boys, because they're making decisions on their life now and what they're doing and where they're spending their time. And our middle son literally made a decision to go out west and work in a ministry where he's basically doing what we would do on one of our Lighthouse trips. He's doing it for pastors and Christian leaders
So cool.
at this ministry, serving them, right, and doing work crew type of stuff. And when we ask him, like, what is it that's driving you to want to do this? He's like, this is who we are. This is what we do. I was built to go and love and serve others and be the hands and feet of Jesus. And then our oldest son, he's like, I just really feel like hospitality is a thing that I'm supposed to be in. I feel like I'm good at service. I do it well. I love taking care of people and creating great experiences. And so we just get to see our kids. It's shaping the decisions that they're making in their life because of that lens that they look through of, hey, it's not about me. I want to put others first. And now they're looking at how do they do this in their own life as adults?
Well, and think about how cool it is that they had that experience to like start picking up on trends. Like, what do I even like? Because you see so many 17-year-olds, it's like, pick your major. I was like, how the heck do they know what a major is supposed to be? And so I love that he was paying attention to those lights on the dashboard that were like, I'm good at this. I feel like in my lane. That's awesome.
And if I can add a sidebar is because with that young adult age, right? Because and trust me, for anyone who's hearing, like, you're going to think that we have like angel wings and our kids are perfect. They certainly are not. And high school and middle school definitely had its challenges on the side. Yeah. Right? Just as a mom, I just want to be very, very
for those listening that went to high school with it, Woodruff,
transparent and know that there were many years. But what I'm finding most exciting, and Chris and I are literally looking at each other going, it really works. Because now that they are young adults and they're getting out of some of those snarkier ages, what it's landing on them is what they were modeled.
Yeah.
And those are what's impacting their decisions. But one of the other things that I have loved is the community of people they've been around. So they've just not served with their age group. I'm a huge proponent of generational serving.
Yeah.
I will beat that drum all day long because there is something about being with people older and younger than you. And I think what I've seen is that they now have a community of people who have known them since they were little, like 7 years old, who are now writing rec letters for them. And they are mentors for them when it's coming time for them to get into jobs.
Yeah.
They're reaching out to people to get, connections. And it's because of serving. So they have a comfort level. A lot of kids this age aren't comfortable talking with adults.
Yeah,
so that's
I agree.
The sidebar of it. Like, yes, they had empathy, but I think they also have different communication skills that were fostered from being with multi-generations.
Yeah.
In an
A
environment.
few things I wrote down as y'all were talking that it's fun to think about this myself. And so I know you're the guest, but I got to share a few more things. So the one thing is fun. Like they just can't believe how hilarious and fun Ron is because they see him as an executive and then he comes home and he's dad and he goes to bed. Like seeing him like ham it up in the drink line and trying to, speak Italian and throwing kids in the pool. They're just like, wow, he's fun. Same with me. They know I'm fun, but like seeing me interact with younger kids. And it's just been a fun piece for our family. The second thing was the little things. You all mentioned this, but I think they're seeing that little things matter. They can be the hands and feet of Jesus through remembering to get that person's favorite color or bringing the favorite ice cream or those little bitty things matter to all of these. And that's just societal. Like if we can be intentional with the little things with people at our church or in our classroom. Even last night, Larson said, I need to go to Target. It was like 9:00 and Ron's like, that's past my bedtime. Like, why are we going to Target? And she said, no, I have to go because I'm on the care team. And I'm like, you're on the care team. And they want to revamp the care team at our school. So when someone's going through something, so she went to Target, got this basket, bought all this stuff for her friend Ashlyn that had knee surgery today. I'm like, that is what she learned at Lighthouse. Like, not just show up and say, oh, get well, here's a card. It was like, what would make Ashlyn feel loved and seen during a really scary surgery? So all those little things. And then the last thing I thought of was just faith. And this can happen at your church or at your school or through something like Lighthouse or domestic, international, doesn't matter. But you get to be a part of what God is doing in the world. And our little bit of like, yes, we step in a little bit anxious. And then you see all these things God is doing with connections or several families at Lighthouse got baptized. There's just so many cool things and they get a front row seat to see like, it's not all actually up to me and God is doing something and they're just in the middle of it watching. And I love those stories, like after the fact going, did you see what happened with so-and-so? And did you see how we got roomed with so-and-so and how ironically, quotes that you were partnered with this family and just all those God stories, I just think is something, it's less lectures, it's less sermons. It's more like we are living it. We are feeling it. We are seeing Jesus. Have your kids seen that too?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, Courtney, is we've talked about Lighthouse. Lighthouse is great. It's a week of it, right? But what we try to talk about is how do we Lighthouse at home? Mm-hmm. And it's the things you're talking about, that care team that she's jumping on and taking care of somebody in her school, right? And how you said that, that Lighthouse up sparked that on. That's what we try to do with our kids is we would come home and go, all right, who in our circle can we continue to love like this, right? Because it's not just a week. And so we would find people in our neighborhood. Who can we Lighthouse in our neighborhood? Who can we Lighthouse in our own family, right? Let's take care of ourselves. Or if we're having guests in, how do we take care of them this week when they're coming in and visiting with us? And how do we make this an extension of who we are as a family? Not just hey, this is 1 week we go do this, or 1 weekend we go somewhere and serve at a soup kitchen. But how do we do this every day? How do we live this? Let's look outside of this bubble of ours, right, that we live in and look, okay, there's people right in our immediate reach that need help. There's somebody in our neighborhood that needs a meal this month, right? And we've got to just have our ears on and our eyes open so we can pay attention and know there are people right in front of us that we can serve. And that's where getting our kids out and doing this on a regular basis teaches them to think about that and gives us opportunities to have conversations about it on a regular basis because it's something we're doing regularly as a family.
I love it. I want to speak to the different personalities because like my sister and I could not be more opposite. She's a triathlon person. I am not. But I am like, let's serve, let's go, let's do until I'm laying on the ground. And that overwhelms her. And it's not that she didn't have a good heart or doesn't love Jesus. So I remember when our kids were little, I would do a light them up is what I called it, like a random acts of kindness to light up the community. I would do one every day in December, kind of like an Advent. She was like, we're going to do one at our house. Like we're going to make some cookies and we're going to take them to the fire station, but that was okay. And so one caution, and maybe y'all can just add on to this, is I remember early on when I had this heart of like, I want to change the world. I want to help everybody. I want to give all the money. And Ron's like, pump the brakes. Like we have only a certain amount of time. We only have certain amount of resources. And I really will tell you, Chris, I like to give you credit where credit is due. At one of the chairman's retreat, I'm on the board now, but at one of the retreats, you had a speaker that said, the more you can focus, the more impact you had. And we really came home from that and said, like, not that we can't write a check here or write a check here, but we can't go deep and serve everywhere. And so we really made Lighthouse our place where it was like, we are going to spend time. We're going to give y'all as much money as we can. We're going to serve. We're going to do all the things that make it, this is the thing we spend most of our time on. And I really will say, if you're feeling overwhelmed, that just pay attention, start trying things. And it may not be Lighthouse, but it may be a certain ministry at your church that you go. And I've known young moms, y'all are being called to volunteer everywhere all the time. And it's not possible. You even start getting a bad attitude because you're like, everyone needs me. Who are all these people? Like, kind of thing. So have y'all experienced that with your serving and your family's focus?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it within our family. I mean, Jan spoke to it a little bit earlier of just trying to find for our kids, what is it that they enjoy, right? Because we don't want it to be a labor, right? We want it to be something that they look forward to and enjoy. So our kids, trying to plug them into an area when we serve that they really, really thrive in. Like with our middle son, he loves little kids. He loves babies. So the parking lot wasn't for him. Right.
Yeah.
And then serving in middle school, like when he was in high school, he didn't want to do the middle school ministry. He didn't like middle schoolers. He loved babies. So him and Jan would go serve on a morning where they would work with the little kids, the little babies and 2 and 3-year-olds, because he just loved playing with that age. And so it's finding where it is that you like and what you love and pushing towards that. And even for the adults, to your point, Courtney, it's not for everybody to do all the things, right? But find out what is your strength, what is your gift, what gives you life, what do you run to, and serve there. And baby steps. You don't have to jump in the deep end, right? Start with the baby steps and serve. But what you will see is not only just for you personally doing it, but when you step into it as a family. When you step into as a family, to the title of the podcast, Pardon the Mess, right? When you step into the mess with your family, because that's what you're stepping into, at least at Lighthouse. And most places you go serve, there's some mess you're stepping into because you're trying to help, right? Yeah. It's an area where there's a need. When you step into the mess together, you create an opportunity to bond together as a family in helping others. And you're doing something not about you. And that creates so many conversations after the fact that's what builds the culture in your family of how you love different and how you love well.
Love that.
And make it not about you. But we see that all the time at Lighthouse where people will come and go, yeah, that's not my thing, but I do really well over here. And you're like, great, let's get you over here because we want you to thrive. We want you to shine. We want you to walk away going, I see how Jesus is using me, right? We don't need to go, no, you need to step into your out of your comfort zone and go into this really hard place and serve. That's not necessarily always the right answer, right? So,
Chris, I'm going to end with you, but I want to first go to Jan. We're going to end. I want you to tell people unashamedly how they can get involved in Lighthouse. You know, I am all about it, and it's changed my family's life. So I want you to tell us where we can get involved. And then Jan, tell me anything you want to, but one thing I want to do, just give you a moment to do. So there's a lot of moms listening with littles that are like in survival mode. They're like, I literally can't get them to the dentist and bed at night, and it feels so full. And so it's like, how do I add this on? Or how do I add serving on? I'm already overwhelmed with just keeping them alive and keeping them out of jail or whatever. So tell us like why, just encourage us, but also like, how can we just remind them that like, this is one of those things that I would say looking back over 18 years is it needed to bubble up and some other things could have fallen. Like, I'm not to pick on sports, but like travel ball and like, will your kid be an Olympian, to me could have gone lower. And so I may be stepping on toes, but what are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I always say that for us, Lighthouse was the blessing I never knew to pray for, right? So now while Chris works there, it is still our family ministry. So regardless, I will go on speaker anytime to talk about it because I have just seen over the years, I mean, Rena's 17, so she has been doing this for 13 years of her life. And the same with our boys, but I just feel like there are things that are non-negotiable, right? It's like those hard years when your kids are little.
Yeah.
There's the mantra of please, thank you. You're teaching them discipline, right? None of us want to do that as parents. We just want to brush it under the carpet and go to bed.
Yeah.
But we have to stay in it, right? Because over time, it forms something that is molding into a really beautiful human being.
Yeah.
And so that's just parenting.
Yeah.
For me, the serving side of it is so, it teaches our kids how to get outside of themselves. We are innately selfish.
Yeah.
Our children are innately selfish. And so what I would maybe say, maybe you don't go as a family. Maybe you go as the mom and a daughter. Like you take
Yeah.
the oldest and
Yeah.
dad stays home with the kids and you rotate out. We have that happen with families that they can't bring all of the family at one time. So they do it in stages.
Yeah.
The dad might be bringing, since the dads work a ton more often, they bring one child at a time so they can go deep.
Love that.
And that becomes an etched memory. And then the other kids are like, well, I want to go. And then we had a family that's done that where the dad has taken all 4 of their children and now the mom comes and she's a medical lead and their whole family now does it. But you can pick and choose. I think there are more ways to say yes than doing the easiest, which is no.
Yeah, that's great. And I love the creativity behind that. I've done all of those scenarios. 1 child, 2 child, with Ron, all that. But
and if I can give one example is when we had our foster son, he was 19 months when he started with us. So I had 4 kids in 4 different schools. And we got him literally when retreat season was starting. I had no idea what he ate, what time he was going to go to sleep, the whole 9 yards. But over time, he had probably in the 2.5 years he was with us, he was probably on 10 retreats.
Wow.
And one example that I can tell you is we went and we were doing a leadership dinner and our family and some other staff were serving in a line. And he comes up and he goes, and he's 2.5. He's like, Mama, how can I help?
Oh, that's so sweet.
And he puts on little blue gloves and he hands out plates.
So cute.
A plate, right? Like nothing can break. And he literally handed out a plate to every person 75 people later. So that is my answer to saying there is always something for a child to be a part of. They need to be elevated.
Yeah.
We need to give our kids more credit than they're, I think
so
as parents,
true.
we have to get out of the way of perfection.
Yeah.
And allow some of that mess that you talk about to happen so we can start molding them into become really awesome.
I love it. Jan, you are awesome. So are you, Chris. But you're one of those people in the camp of like Wendy Henderson that I wish we were in the same city because I would be forcing you to have coffee with me once a week to dump out that wisdom. So thank you for your time. Chris, how can people find Lighthouse and get involved?
Yeah, so best way is obviously website, www.lighthousefamilyretreat.org. That's the best place to go. There's a place you can sign up to register just for our regular email communication. We don't bombard things. We just provide information. And that's where we'll talk about, hey, we've got retreats coming where you can sign up as a family. We do things through church groups. And then we also have just individual families like we did when we first signed up that said, hey, our church isn't doing it, but we still want to. So we're just going to sign up and serve as a family by ourselves. And we have tons of week-long retreats down at the beach. We've got weekend retreats in the mountains. There's lots of different options. And you'll get all those updates on when and where we have signups through those emails or following us on social media as well.
And maybe in Texas, Chris and I just went driving around all the campsites in Texas to do a weekend.
We have, we will have a weekend retreat in Texas before too long for sure.
Yeah, I will say, pay attention to the email or follow. I will be announcing it, but once the opens in January-ish, those spots kind of fly through. So you want to be kind of watching for it. And especially if you have a certain week you really want to go to kind of be watching for it. I love this place. I love what it's done with my family. I love that we're friends. And I just thank you guys so, so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Courtney.
So much.
Anytime. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pardon the Mess. As always, we've got more encouragement and resources over at christianparenting.org. And you can also stay connected with us on social media at Pardon the Mess. And if you like this episode, I'd love for you to do 2 things. Press follow on whatever podcast platform you love, and also be sure to leave a rating so other parents can find us. Remember, you're never alone in this beautiful mess of parenting.
When it comes to cleaning your house, who doesn't wish un galán with a trust fund swept in and passed the mop to your evil stepmom like in the telenovelas? Hola, it's Chiquis here, and although life isn't always like in the soap operas, Fabuloso does bring a clean that's always over the top. Get your home dramatically clean anytime you like, without any evil mama drama. Just long-lasting lavender freshness. That's Fabuloso, taking the drama out of any mess.
Fabuloso's 2 times concentrated formula provides 2 times more active ingredients versus non-concentrated Fabuloso Original. Use as directed.